news on the go, live reports, real-time updates, unfiltered stories. I'm Bernard Akede. This is News Central.
Direct response to live happenings. Factual content as truthful reporting is at the heart of our responsibility. This is the site of where the building collapse happened at about 4-5 yesterday evening. I am Bettina Onwili. This is News Central.
Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. In Lagos State, the governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, yesterday swore in members of his cabinet for his second term in office. This is coming about 6 weeks after the governor transmitted his first list of nominees to the Lagos State House of Assembly for screening and confirmation.
Governor Sanwo-Olu commended the State of House Assembly for the job well done during the nominees and screening exercise and asked the cabinet members to put in their best and ensure their work reflects excellence at all times by carrying the people along. The swearing-in ceremony, which was held at the Adeyemi Bero Auditorium, Alausa, Ikeja, signaled the inauguration of the governor's cabinet for his second term in office. News Central's Niyi Omoniyi tells us more in this report.
The inauguration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's cabinet for his second term in office was attended by political bigwigs from both the state and national level. After some deliberation since the appointment of the first 3 key cabinet members, which include the secretary to the state government, chief of staff and the deputy chief of staff, the Lagos State House of Assembly confirmed 38 nominees for Sanwo-Olu's cabinet. The final nominee, Tolani Akibu, was confirmed less than 24 hours before the swearing-in ceremony. Among the 38 commissioners and special advisors are Gbenga Omotosho, the former Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Professor Akin Abayomi, the former Commissioner for Health, and Ruth Abisola Olusoya, the former Agriculture counterpart. One after the other, they took the oath of office. However, one of the nominee, the former boss of the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, Dolapo Fashawe, although confirmed by the House, was not sworn in due to absence. During the ceremony, Sanwo-Olu urged the newly appointed commissioners and special advisors to carry out their duties diligently.
You are representing Lagos State. You are not representing any local government or any ward. You are a cabinet member that ensures and sees Lagos State first as your constituency. And you must ensure that everything you do reflects the Lagosian in you first. And that is what we'll expect to see going forward.
He also took the opportunity to highlight the accomplishment of his first term and outline his plans for the next 4 years.
We have started by announcing the renaming of our governance agenda to the Teams Plus agenda. So there's a plus in the teams that we have. This is a recognition of the necessity at incorporating social inclusion, gender equality, and youth development into all of our programs.
As part of these plans, new ministries such as the Ministry for Industry, Trade and Investment have been created, and the education sector has now been divided into basic and tertiary for better focus. To facilitate a smooth transition, an executive retreat is scheduled to be held for 3 days. This retreat will bring together the state executives and permanent secretaries who have been managing affairs in the interim and will mark the official commencement of Sanwo-Olu's second term. Niyi Omoniyi, reporting for News Central Lagos.
Well, of course, congratulations to the new commissioners in Lagos State. It did not come without its own bit of drama, if you remember. The Speaker of the House of Assembly did, of course, or the House of Assembly did reject them, a couple of names. Some of them were sent back and, of course, were eventually accepted. Some of them didn't eventually make it. And so, it did have its own bits of controversy. But congratulations to those who have been sworn in. And, of course, we wish them the very best. We hope that they understand what is at stake and what is required of them. And they're also able to work with the governor of the state to improve on the quality of life of Lagosians in every aspect. I would always wonder, and I would always ask, what is the standard with which we rate these people and their performance here? Do they understand, what is required of them or what is, desired of them in these positions? If they do, are they going to be able to deliver? And, is the governor also going to be able to, rate them after 1 year of being in office, to know whether they've performed well enough? If you look across Lagos State, would you say that there's standards for which we, operate, or of which the state, governs itself? These are questions that they need to ask themselves. Because
I'm also curious as to why the lack of
she was there. Maybe we'll find some clarity.
We'll talk about that. Maybe we'll hear about that much later.
Absolutely. But still here in Lagos, I'm sure that Commissioner for Education will be interested in this one. Let's inform you that some students of the University of Lagos hit the streets on Wednesday to protest the increment in tuition fees of the institution. This is the second protest in 1 week by UNILAG students, who were joined by students from other universities to hit the streets with chants centrally on the need for the school and its authorities to reduce the new fees. Some of the students said the hike in the fees did not wear a human face, and they will continue to protest until things return to status quo. They're also asking the federal government to invest the proceeds from the subsidy removal on education rather than allow any increment in school fees. Now, joining us this morning on Breakfast Central is Alimilekon Idris, is the chairman, Nigerian Association of National Association of Nigerian Students, JCC Lagos State. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Idris.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, sir.
Good to have you join us. Give us updates on what exactly is going on in UNILAG as to the protest. I did see that there was some controversy, a couple of days ago when policemen fired tear gas at these protesting students. So can you give us, updates on what has been happening?
Okay, thank you. Good morning. My name is Comrade Alimilekon Idris, the chairman of National Association of Nigerian Students, Joint Campus Council, Lagos Lagos. Yeah, sometimes last week we went on a protest to let them know that to present our displeasure about the hike in fee. To cut the long story short, we met with the Commissioner of Police, because when they arrest some of our comrades, we won't fold our hands and let them go with them. We met with him. We discussed with him that, sir, this is a national issue. So the management of UNILAG should not use the police force against the Nigerian students. And as a father, he was able to release those comrades for us. Now to the bone of contention. We want a total reversal. We want them to revert the hike in fee. We don't even want reduction. We want them to revert the hike in fee. So that is what we are clamoring for. And by the special grace of God, today we will be meeting with the management of UNILAG. The Ministry of Education is fully aware of our agitations. They are fully aware of it. They've called the national president. So myself, the national president, some UNILAG students, and the faculty president in UNILAG will be meeting with the management of UNILAG today by 12. So that is what is on ground for now.
All right, we hope that this meeting does yield some form of positive result. But we'd like you to help us see exactly how drastic this increment is. There are several reports about what it was before, what it was now. I've seen in some cases, some saying it was 19,000 naira before and now over 190,000. So can you give us like a picture of what the increment looks like?
Yeah, the increment, when after the old thing, because we have about 3 sets of students, the one that make use of the workshop, and those that don't make use of the workshop, the medical students. That's the 3rd set of students. According to the statistics, the increment is about 600%. So if you are saying they should reduce, they might not even still give us what we want. So we want them to revert the fee, because 600% increments at this particular time, it is very, very tough. And nobody is even ready to pay that. So it is 600% increment. I'm very sure of that.
Was there any reason given for the increment?
Not really, not really.
So it was an arbitrary increment.
Till this very moment, we are yet to get any genuine reason.
All right. We'll come back to talk about
the... blame it on the economy.
Okay. We'll come back to talk about the increments. Let's talk about the protest. How have the protests been? There have been conversations about tear gas being released on students. Can you confirm this or not?
That's true. The picture, we have the picture, we have the videos. So, and I believe pictures and videos don't lie. So that is nothing but the sincere truth. But I believe when we had the protest yesterday, though I won't call that a protest, a peaceful demonstration yesterday, because since they've called for meetings today, I see no reason why we should have very long protests. So after the demonstration yesterday, I think the Nigerian police force were able to calm the whole issue, unlike the previous one we had last week. So we have the pictures, we have the videos. That's nothing but the sincere truth.
What exactly is the UNILAG's body saying about this? We're seeing here that the VC, Ms. Ogunshola, recently assured that no student of the university will drop out as a result of the fee hike. She went further to say that the university will adopt measures such as scholarship opportunities, work-study programs, and instrumental payment options, amongst others, wherein, for example, you can pay 3 times before the closure of the academic year. Is this something that you're aware of, and is this something that you're comfortable with?
Well, to me, that does not hold, because you saying you want them to pay instrumentally. I see no reason why you want them to pay instrumentally. When a student paying 21,000 naira before is now paying 190-something thousand, I see it as scam. That's the basic truth. I see it as scam. If you should return it to that initial amount, there is no point paying 3 times.
No, not returning it. She's talking about
3 times.
She's talking about with the increment. For example, if your school fees was 24,000, like you just mentioned, and now it's 150,000. What she's saying is that 150,000 you can pay instrumentally. You don't have to pay it, at once. Or there's also the work and school, facility available. So you don't think that any of these things would work?
It won't. We don't believe in that. If you want to do us a favor, do us a favor. Let it be a complete favor. Don't you don't expect to beat a child and expect that child not to cry. All of those things won't work.
Yeah.
That's not what we want at the moment.
Okay.
We don't want any plans of such. We don't want it, and we won't even subscribe to that.
Let me also just confirm. Are we talking 24,000 naira, for example, per semester, or is it the whole academic year for 24,000 naira?
Yeah, the session.
Okay, so the session. I don't know if you've heard arguments like this. If someone says to you that, 24,000 naira for a whole session, that's pretty cheap. That's really, really low. And if you were going to school outside Nigeria, for example, you would pay, a whole lot more than that, to school and to learn, training as a medical doctor, as a lawyer, as an engineer. So would you agree somehow, some way that education in Lagos, in UNILAG, has been greatly subsidized, and the university needs to find a way to fund itself to improve on the quality of education that it's giving you? And so maybe it's okay that they increase it, maybe not to 190,000, but at least a little bit to make more money for the university. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I don't think. Well, in the same nation, in the same environment, education should be free. Back in the days of Awolowo, according to history, education was free then. So the government should fund the educational system. We have the president affirmed that the money they get from subsidy is way much. I believe they can use part of that money to fund the educational system. In the same country, education should be free. So now back to the issue of UNILAG. If I thought they will be increasing it, the percentage should be very, very low. It should not be on the high side. 600% increments in this period, at this period of time, is it is too much. And we won't even agree to that at all. I can assure you that if she refused to listen to us, we are not ready to listen to her. I mean, the VC of Unilag.
All right.
So for now, we won't even subscribe to that. The money is too much. The increment is too much. That percentage is too much.
What percentage? Can you give me an example of a percentage that you think might be? Because you guys are going to go into negotiations today. So give me an example of what percentage would be fair enough.
It should not be more than 50%. It should not be more than 50%.
So 50% would, if for example you were paying, I don't know how much your school fees is. So if you were paying 10,000 naira before, you're saying that it's okay if they increase it to roughly, say, maybe 50,000?
No, not 50,000.
No, 15.
No, that's how you calculate it.
How do you calculate it?
I mean, so 24,000 naira school fees, now will probably be 36,000.
My math is a bit flawed. So anyway, regardless of what we're saying, you're saying that 50% is what you're working with as opposed to the 600%.
At the moment.
And that's a fair deal. You're going into negotiation. You're going into negotiation now. So if you're paying,
we are not even ready to negotiate that. Get me right.
okay.
We want a total reversal.
Do you think that that's obtainable at this moment? Do you think that a total reversal is obtainable at this moment?
Freedom comment by struggle. There's no harm in crying.
All right.
We are ready to. That's what we want to present to her. But so if I thought she's saying okay, there's no way we won't increase the fee. So we are going with 50%. I think 50% is fair enough.
Yeah. Are you also a student of Unilag?
No. I'm not.
Okay. But you're with the NANS, the National Association of Nigerian Students?
Yes, I'm the state chairman of NANS.
How much support is Unilag getting? I mean, this is great that you're not a student of Unilag, but how much support? Can you give us an idea of how much support Unilag is getting from other universities as the protest is ongoing?
Well, the sincere truth is the students of Unilag are willing to support. Though some of them are outside there. They are ready. They are with us. Some of them are with us. But there's this issue of indemnity form. During their course of registration, they give them a form, which we call indemnity form. Some of those students are afraid to come out to protest because they don't want the situation whereby after the whole issue, the management will be against them. The management will want to stylishly rusticate some of them. So that is why we have issue with some of them coming outside to let the whole world know, okay, they are not happy with this. So it is only the issue of indemnity form that has been stopping some students. But aside that, even with that, some students are there outside with us. They've been supporting us in the whole struggle. The faculty presidents were with us last week, when we had the first meeting, the first protest rather. So I believe, despite the fact that the management of Unilag are working tirelessly for their students not to support or to go with us, yet some students are still there. You can't remove the comradeship in them. So they are really with us. They are with us.
All right. Confirm, that there's also talk about a meeting with the DSS. Is that also happening?
Yes, I'll be meeting with the DSS today. That's the leadership of NANS Lagos.
What's the meeting about?
Nothing to do with the meeting with Unilag VC. That's another case entirely.
So the meeting with the Unilag VC is totally different from the meeting with the DSS?
Yes, it's different.
Can you give us an idea what the subject matter of the meeting with the DSS?
No, it's just a security meeting.
Okay. So what's currently going on?
With Unilag.
All right. What's currently going on in Unilag? Whilst you talk about the indemnity form, some have argued that this indemnity form is unconstitutional as it deprives them of their right to freedom of assembly. But whilst some are not able to come out and protest, you said some have joined. Would you say that, give us a picture of what's going on in Unilag at the moment? Are there lectures ongoing? Is it still business as usual in some measure?
I guess they are yet to resume fully. So we can't really give a very good breakdown of the whole issue. But I think at the moment they are yet to resume fully. they are yet to resume fully.
Okay. Yeah, did you, graduate from Unilag?
No,
Okay.
I'm not a student of Unilag. I'm the
I
vice
mean,
chairman.
okay, I mean, you're a member of the National Association of Nigerian Students. I thought, you have to be a student at least to be a member of the Association of Nigerian Students, but
Yes.
maybe, I'm getting it
I'm a
wrong.
student of Lagos State Polytechnic, now Lagos State University of Science and Technology.
Oh, okay, brilliant. That's the clarity I was seeking. I want to probe further, of course, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. The quality of education in Unilag, what would you rate it as? Would you say that, Unilag gives, good quality education, and if there's the argument that, if they need to afford, better quality education for, students in every department, they will need to, of course, fund it better. We're also aware, yes, that there's been a removal of subsidy, but it's not Unilag that is going to, take that subsidy money and fund itself. It has to be the Nigerian government. So there has to be an argument towards the Nigerian government, not to Unilag. And so if Unilag says to you that we need to fund better education, we need to build better hostels for our students, we need to build better laboratories and the likes for our students, and to do that, we need to increase school fees. Would that be something that you're willing to understand with the management of Unilag?
We are not ready to comply to that. So the sincere truth is, the government should be the one in charge of funding the education.
Yes.
So they should not put the blame on us. They should face the government. The whole issue is coming from the government. So they should face the government. See, even as a student, we have a lot of things to do with money. Now going to school, there's no way you won't use transportation. You board a car going to school. Initially, they pay about 100 naira from the gate to their to their department. Now they've increased it to about 200 naira. The cost of food is there, the feeding. There's no way you won't eat. So considering some things on our own side as students, I believe they should face the government. The whole struggle should not come to Nigerian students. So
Right.
it is not as if we are facing the Unilag management alone. So the reason why we are facing the management of Unilag alone now is just because the president of Nigeria says all schools should spend their increment at the moment. So that is why we are facing Unilag. Let's assume we did not get any information from the presidency, from the president of Nigeria. We won't be facing the management alone now. But since the information says they should hold any increments across the nation at the moment, so I believe we are to face that institution. So that is why we are against the management of Unilag at the moment.
If
But on the
Unilag,
other hand, the government should fund the educational system.
if Unilag the only institution at the moment that has talked about an increase, as a chairman of NANS, I'm sure that you can tell us what the position is in other universities across, the country. So is Unilag the only institution at this moment that has talked about it, that has actually spoken about an increase? Or are there other universities that are speaking about potentially increasing?
Yeah, thank you. Well, me, I'm the chairman of Lagos. So the only affected school in Lagos is Unilag. But on the other hand, to be candid, I get to know that there is also one school, I guess UI, Unilongi, OAU. No, not, yes, OAU. Those three schools are trying to increase it, but they've not put that on the portal. So that's not on their portal at the moment. But there's an issue going on in those schools as regarding that increment too. But Unilag, the issue of Unilag, we have that payment, that school fees now, the new school fees on the portal. So that is why we are agitating that they should remove that. We don't want it at the moment, unlike the other schools.
All right.
Okay, well, it's a tough time for Nigerian parents and, of course, for Nigerians generally, including students. So, I'm hoping that you and, of course, the representatives of the university have some, middle ground where you meet.
Yeah.
And we'd like to speak with you again, at the end of your
Before we
meeting
wrap
today.
up, I just want you to share with us, maybe one of the most heartbreaking stories. I think there's one story that we all saw on social media, and the young girl will be Tomi Tokpaya Folashade. She's a 200 level UNILAG student. And we did see her at the protest and crying. Have you been able to speak with any of them? Have they shared with you, just how personally this increase affects them? What would you say, or which would you say is the most heartbreaking story? It's a generally heartbreaking situation, but are there any particular stories you'd like to share of how this has affected some students?
See, like I said earlier, an injury to one is an injury to all. We are all affected. We are all affected. So, at the moment, it's a general something. It's a general something. So I would want to say, okay, it's only one person that the whole issue is affecting.
Oh, no, of course. I know
So
that's
it's
why I said
affecting
it's a generally heartbreaking situation, but some people are more willing to explain exactly, how it affects them or explore, just like the young lady did on camera. I was hoping you could share that with us. But yes, you are right that an injury to one is an injury to all, and that the federal government needs to look into this, UNILAG needs to look into this, and the Nigerian students do not deserve this. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, they, of course, have stated that they will be having a meeting today. So after the meeting, hopefully we get some feedback on, what agreements have been reached. I just had to put out that argument that education is reasonably cheap. And yes is the part where education can be free. Yes, but maybe not on every level. Primary level, secondary level. Maybe not tertiary level across the country.
But certainly not a 600% increase.
Yeah,
I wonder what I would
definitely
have been
not.
able to do, what I would have done if I was in university and the school fees was increased up to 600%.
Not even you, your parents. Whoever it is that was responsible for your school fees.
I was responsible for my school
fees. Oh yeah, sorry,
you were.
okay.
But no, yeah,
but the point is, I believe that, like you said, we're not there yet as a country where we can say we have been able to afford free education for primary, secondary, and tertiary students across the country.
With the quote-unquote subsidized education that we offer, we've still not been able to get it right, as we're having incessant strikes every other day.
Yeah.
Strikes for non-payment of salaries. They're talking of IPPIS, and then the different modes of payment for lecturers. We're talking about an underfunded system in the education sector. We haven't even sorted all of that out.
Yeah.
So now adding increase to price of school fees.
But it's also I think it's also important to just note that it is greatly subsidized.
It is.
The school fees that we're talking about here for a session at 24,000 naira is astonishing, because I know that a lot of people have Googled schools abroad in the last couple of years. No, I'm just saying. Well,
No.
Maybe, that's a different argument entirely.
School fees abroad.
No, that's a different argument entirely. Let's not get into that. But the point is, it is greatly subsidized. What do you expect from a university that has or a system that has greatly subsidized education, thousands of percentage, when you're paying 24,000 naira for a whole year, to give you laboratories to work with, to give you great working environment, to give you great hostels to live in? That's a lot of of subsidies being paid for education already. Can Nigeria afford it at this time to continue to subsidize? Maybe not. It's a struggle, and I understand that since the cost of living has gone up across the whole country, the cost of running business has gone up across the whole country, it is going to be really, really difficult on the university's side to continue to afford to subsidize things on that level. Do they have to, of course, have these conversations with the federal government? Absolutely. But maybe at the end of these discussions they will. And of course, you remember that ASU is still hanging in the corner, disgruntled also. All right, let's move away from there and of course go into other things. Olive?
All right, moving away, 9 days after the screening and confirmation by the Nigerian Senate, President Bola Tinubu allocated portfolios to the 45 ministerial nominees. Of this number, about 10 are newly created or modified by the president. News Central's Bernard Akede gave a brief rundown of these 10 new ministries. Let's take a look.
Among the many things to look forward to when a new president assumes office is the list of ministers to oversee the country's ministries. And in the case of President Tinubu, the ministerial expectation was the same. But in his case, not only did he appoint new ministers, he also created some ministries that were entirely new, while others seem to have been pulled out of their existing ministries. Starting with Marine and Blue Economy. This is one of the new ministries created, with Bumi Tunjiojo as minister. The marine and blue economy involves the economic activities associated with the ocean and the seas. Another newly created ministry is tourism, though pulled out of former Ministry of Information, Culture and Tourism. The president appointed Lola Ade John as the minister. Tourism is one of the biggest economic activities in the world today. It involves the pursuit of recreation, relaxation, and pleasure. Similarly, the president brought arts and culture economy to blend with culture, to be headed by Hanatu Musawa. The Ministry of Gas Resources has been separated from petroleum resources. Nigeria is ranked 8th among countries with the biggest gas reserves, so there is high expectation that the country will maximize it for its economic benefits. Ekperikpe Ekpo has been appointed as the Minister of State for Gas Resources. The Steel Development is another new ministry to be headed by Shuaibu Audu. The portfolio was carved out from Mines and Steel Development. The ministry will work on the improvement of all steel and metallic resources in the country for economic growth and development. Finance and Coordinating Economy was first created by former President Goodluck Jonathan with Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala as the minister. While Buhari's administration did not recognize such, Tinubu has reintroduced Finance and Coordinating Economy and appointed his former commissioner, Wale Edun, to be in charge. The ministry is aimed at setting guidelines for managing government financial risks and supervising all other financial-oriented parastatals and agencies, amongst others. Concerning health, the president created social welfare and merged it with health to have an encompassing ministry. The Social Welfare Assistance Program offers food, shelter, and medical care that citizens cannot readily access. Tinubu has allotted the portfolio to Professor Ali Pate, a physician and a politician. Aerospace Development was created and merged with Aviation to create the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development, and the president appointed Festus Keyamo the minister. Aerospace is the advancement of human technology that enables the travel and exploration of the Earth's atmosphere and the surrounding space, including the aerospace engineering field covering research and development, design, and manufacturing. In the previous administration, the Ministry of Youth and Sports were operated as one, but Tinubu has brought out the Ministry of Youths from it to be manned by Abubakar Momo. The Youth Development Ministry is expected to focus on the optimal utilization of Nigeria's youth for national pride across the globe. Lastly, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs is to develop humanitarian policies and provide effective coordination of national and international humanitarian interventions. Poverty alleviation is a designed set of measures, both economic and humanitarian, intended to lift people out of poverty. The new ministry was created from the Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Development, and the president has allotted the modified ministry to Betta Edu, the former national women leader of the All Progressives Congress. Bernard Akede, reporting for News Central.
Right, that's a very interesting package there. Thank you very much, Bernard Akede, for bringing us those very important details and giving us a very thorough breakdown. Now, still speaking about this, Osage, I'm sure that we have more updates.
Yeah, I mean, really just to also speak, with regards to the report, Bernard Akede did a really, really good one. But just like we spoke, with regards to Lagos State, we're saying the same thing with the federal, on the state level and on the federal level. New governments are, just starting, work. Yesterday, we spoke with the Commissioner for Information in Enugu State. And of course, he was able to seemingly detail a little bit, what the plans are for Enugu State. But not just there, across the country, every state that has gotten a new government or, of course, a returning, government in office has, a lot, that is going to be placed on its shoulders, including the federal government. Do they understand what is at stake and what is required and what, Nigerians demand in the next 4 years? Considering greatly the trajectory that Nigeria has been on in the last 4 years, between 2015 and 2023, many people would argue that it has been the worst time economically and in many other regards for Nigeria as a country. Worst in capital letters. But of course, that means that whoever it is that has gotten into office at the state level, federal level, local government level, must do what it takes to rescue Nigeria and uplift us, and lift the country and, move us forward. Will the Tinubu administration be able to do that? Time will tell. Do they understand what is at stake? Has he put the right people in office to ensure that that is done? Do they even understand the standards with which we should work? Can Nigeria even afford at this point to get these things, in motion? Because yes, you can, have plans in the education sector. You can have plans in aviation, have plans in oil and gas, have plans in, infrastructure. But does Nigeria have the money to be able to afford it? Some would argue yes, some would argue no. Can Nigeria, learn how to save money as a country? Now, current administration know how to save money and ensure that that money is directed in, to fix the things that must be fixed. Can Nigeria move from consumption to production, like, the Labour Party presidential candidate used to say? Many, many questions that need to be answered. Are we going to stop wasting money on white elephant or, project, or is that what they call it? Yes, or blue elephant project, I don't know what it is. Are we going to stop wasting money, giving it off as palliatives, or going to the market to share it off, under different, terminologies? Are we going to understand the need to fix one of our refineries, or go, and of course, allow modular refineries to get into? Many, many questions need to be asked. But it's left for the administration to know what plans it has and how it will get those plans in motion. These are, of course, my own questions, and we hope that Nigeria understands what's at stake.
I hope that you get answers for these questions.
I hope so. I hope so.
Questions, I'm not holding my breath.
Did you see these are when these things happen, we don't understand the underlying implications. Yesterday and the day before, we spoke about how Nigerians were jubilating and twerking on the streets, backsliding because visas to, or allegedly, the visa ban, to UAE had been lifted. That's a terrible sign of the mentality of Nigerians, that they're so eager, looking for any reason whatsoever with which they can, leave the country. And yes, you might argue that, Dubai is a, tourist destination. They go there for business and whatnot. But take a look at what's going to happen this month. In September, schools are opening in September. So in the last couple of weeks, and of course, the next couple of weeks, take a look at the number of people who will be jetting out of the country. Searching for greener pastures, because a lot of people have lost faith in the Project Nigeria and what we stand for as a country and where we are headed. Many people have. Even the ones that you see, as doctors, as engineers, as lawyers, as, whatever career that they hold, have all lost faith in what it is. So the Tinubu administration has inherited a lot of baggage and, a lot that needs to be done.
A lot of baggage that was baggage that also his party created.
Yeah.
Let's not forget
that. Oh yes,
that. So
absolutely.
It's just like this is not an apt tradition. It's not an apt representation, but like family member taking over family business. Your older brother was in power, and then the older brother decided, I'm resigning, and the younger brother took over. It's still the family business. So this is still something that is a situation that the APC is not unaware of. They knew what they were getting into.
Yeah.
What I do hope is that they have adequate plans to help them get out of where we already are.
Adequate plans and political will. In 2015 or 2016, I used to ask the question, was the Buhari administration underprepared or overwhelmed when they came into office?
I think it's a mix of both. Might be a mix of both. Anyway.
All right. We'll see. Anyway, let's move into other things. There are, of course, reports that Nigeria has again been thrown into darkness after the national grid system operated by the Transmission Company of Nigeria from Oshogbo in Osun State collapsed. The grid was said to have plummeted to a meager 273 megawatts of electricity, coming from 2 out of the 27 electricity generation
This
plants.
development comes barely a week after TCN rolled out the drum to celebrate a questionable 400 days of grid stability. Other distribution companies confirmed that most of their feeders are out. As of 4 a.m. this morning, 5 generating plants were on the grid.
Of course, the AFAM VI had 0.70 megawatts. The Dinkoa was generating 0.00 megawatts. Ibom Power had 32.90 megawatts, and Jeba had 240 megawatts. And of course, Olorun Shogo was on the grid with 0 generation. That, of course, is a picture of what, Nigeria's electricity sector is. So, when we're talking about the work that needs to be done, it includes electricity, generation, supply, and transmission, rather. and of course every other aspect of electricity.
Maybe that explains why I haven't had lights for.
Well, I mean, I have had
Yeah,
electricity,
I'm
but
just saying.
it's really just enumerating on the amount of work that needs to be done, and we hope that they understand it, because
I don't know
Nigerians
what
will be
has
very, very
collapsed as
heartbroken.
much as this grid this year. Aside the Naira, I don't know what else has collapsed. The Naira and the grid is like they're doing competition for who can out-collapse who.
Yeah.
So we hope that we don't have stories in sports where people are collapsing. We'll be going on a break. When we return, we have some sports updates for you.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeat and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every raise, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
It's not just news to us. It's our voice and our story. It's our report. How we tell African stories for Africans. With detailed, timely and authentic reports. News Central is your home for true news and African stories. I am Omolola Ololade. This is News Central.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa first.
Hello and welcome to Sports Update on Breakfast Central. I am Udoka Njoko. Rumesa Boalam hopes to be the first female boxer from our country to win an Olympic medal in the sport while being a good role model for young girls. At the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, boxer Romayasu made history for Algeria. The two-time African champion became the first female boxer to represent her country at an Olympic game. Boalam believes that the level of boxing in Africa is getting better by the day.
In blue for the entire 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was beautiful boxing. You just see the backhand there, the right hand is just hitting.
The level of Africa is getting better and better with the time. We prepared very, very hard to represent our country in a good way. I see different fights. I mean, the level is high. It's getting better every time. I don't know, maybe the idea of female who do boxing change in many of countries of Africa. That's why boxing became sport like all the other sports.
All right, from there, let's go straight to Ghana. As the Vice President of the Ghana Football Association, Mark Ado, has affirmed that the 2023-2024 Ghana Premier League season will commence as scheduled starting this weekend amid reports of suspended Ashanti Gold notifying clubs of an impending court injunction on the league. He emphasized the GFA's commitment to making the league more substantial and better, asserting that they are undeterred by any potential injunction. Ado expressed his satisfaction with the progress made in recent years, particularly regarding the GFA president, Kurt Okraku's initiatives to enhance the league's quality. The new Ghana Premier League season is set to kick off on Friday, the 15th of September, with a match between Real Tamale United and Hearts of Oak. Now let's go straight to England, as Manchester United have announced a sponsorship deal with US-based Qualcomm Technologies, whose Snapdragon brand will replace the TeamViewer logo on their shirts from next season. The Premier League club, who did not reveal the financial details of the deal, were reportedly targeting an agreement worth £60 million per year. It is understood the figure equals or even surpasses the previous biggest shirt deal in football history. United have not won the Premier League since former manager Alex Ferguson retired in 2013. Now, Erik ten Hag's team have won just 2 of their first 4 league matches this season, with fans voicing their frustration at unpopular owners, the Glazers. United's share price tumbled last week after reports that the Glazers had halted plans to sell the club. From there, let's go straight to Poland, as Fernando Santos has been sacked as manager of the national team after 6 games and less than a year in charge. Poland lost 2-0 to Albania on Sunday, a 3rd defeat in 5 competitive games under Santos, and dropped to 4th in Group E of the Euro 2024 qualifying round. Poland's next match is a qualifier against Faroe Islands in October. The 1-0 friendly win over Germany in June was a high point of Santos's short tenure. Poland trailed Albania, Moldova, and Czech Republic in the European Championship qualification campaign. Despite entering the group as top seeds, they can still qualify for the tournament via finishing in the group's top 2, but need other results to go their way. And in the world of basketball, the NBA team owners approved on Wednesday tougher rules and larger punishments regarding resting star players, including regulations on multiple All-Stars sitting out regular season contests. The player participation policy vote gives the league office more oversight and power to punish violators, with fines of about $100,000 for a first violation and $250,000 for a second, and each addition fine costing $1 million more. Under the new rules recommended by the NBA Competition Committee, teams cannot shut down a star player or have him play a greatly reduced role in a manner impacting the integrity of the game.
That players should be resting, we would be favoring it, and frankly, I would be delivering the message to the fans even that you want these players to rest at certain times because that's going to keep them healthier and performing at a higher level and ensuring that they're on the floor at critical times in the season. What we talked about today is that the the correlation, putting aside causation, isn't there even with players who participate in summer competitions like World Cups and Olympics. They are not more likely to get injured in that season. We don't see any statistical data suggesting that players increase their likelihood of getting injured as they go further along in the season, or even in back-to-backs, which may surprise people. And I think one of the things we're all learning with data and science is not to take anything for granted.
All right, that's a wrap on Sports Update on Breakfast Central. I am Udoka Njoku. Good morning, Olive, and good morning, Osarage.
Good morning, Udoka. I don't know why you have to mention that Manchester United hasn't won the Premier League since 1922.
That was intentional. I had to remind you.
That was very, very unfair. Exactly, as a Manchester United fan. That was very unfair and unnecessary, and I would like that you please retract your statements.
Yeah, well, it's what it is, because since Alex Ferguson, you guys have not won the league. So it was just Fergie time that you guys had winning the Premier League. So
now we're much, you know, yes, please. We're a much better team back then, you know, than we are now. But I want to, definitely. I mean, but I want to ask. I mean, if you looked at arguably Chelsea was also a much better team back then, because if you look at the Chelsea Legends game, you know, and those players compared to the players that they have now, you know, it's a clear difference. But I want to ask, you know, your views on Ten Hag. You know, he came in, you know, and everyone believed that he was a disciplinarian, he was, you know, really strict, and he was going to set things right with the team. But, you know, do you think he may also be focusing too much on being a disciplinarian than he is on actually creating a team that works and, you know, is a team that every other team is scared of?
Well, you know, for coaches like that, I'm sorry to call him the Pep Guardiola look-alike, but then we see the likes of Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta, and of course Eric Ten Hag. These guys are disciplinarians, and we've seen them do this on the football pitch. But is it yielding results for Pep Guardiola? Yes. But I think it will take time for the likes of Mikel Arteta and Eric Ten Hag to instill that discipline in the team, filled up with a lot of superstars. For Ten Hag, yes, he might have a couple of back and forths with these players. But of course, we need to give him time, and I'm sure he will deliver. He's a great coach. He knows what he wants to achieve. But will he have that time at Manchester United? Well, only the fans will tell if he will.
All right. Fingers crossed. We certainly wish Manchester United all the best. We look forward to seeing a season that would be a season like no other. We see Manchester United in all their glory. Like
who are we playing this weekend?
Eric Ten. You know Eric Ten Hag makes. I feel like you will not win the title even after 10 years because he has 10 in his name. Just saying.
I can't even argue. To be honest, I don't have any faith in him. You know, I thought that I did, but you know, I'm not saying the Manchester United that I'm scared of. You know, if I was, you know, playing in a different team, I would not be scared of the current Manchester United. None of their players, you know, frightens me. There's no creativity. There's no individual brilliance. There's just a couple of people, you know, kicking the ball here and there. You know, you don't see the drive that you can see in Manchester City. You don't see the same drive you would see in Liverpool. You know, and those are, you know, teams that you can tell that even when they lose, they gave their all, you know, to each and every game. Manchester United doesn't have that. You know, they're just, you know, let's take one game at a time. Today we win, tomorrow we lose. The next day we, you know, play a draw. You know, we score 2 goals and eventually they equalize. It's just it's a mess. It's a complete mess.
They will shock you.
I'm sure I would not be shocked.
We'll see how far they will go this season.
They will shock you. It's been not a great opening, but greater is the ending of a thing than its beginning.
Wow. Heartbreak
Thank you so much.
Heartbreak brings motivation, so it's fine.
Thanks for stopping by.
Udoka, thank you for stopping by with sports.
Thank you.
And a little bit of shade. Let's share with you what's happened in the past hour here on Breakfast Central.
Yes, we did stop by in Unilag as students protest over increase in school fees.
Yes, we're joined by the NANS chairman, Lagos chapter, and Lagos governor swears in commissioners here in Lagos State. Congratulations to the newly sworn in commissioners.
In sports, Mark Ado has confirmed the start of a new season.
But that's not all. Let's share with you what's coming up later today. All right, now coming up next in News Central.
The Ondo State governor dismisses his deputy's media aides.
And we're talking about rescuing Nigeria's aviation sector, what needs to be done.
Also this morning, taking you through the newspapers, sharing with you the major stories making headlines across the country.
I love to make a difference as a journalist because when you speak to the situation or the people affected, that's when you get the full story.
And so we go all out. The protest was ongoing and it was peaceful across the plains. For real-time stories.
And it was the longest bridge until the 6th of October bridge was completed in Cairo, Egypt.
Knee on knee. This is News Central.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeat and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every raise, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. Now, let's take you on a quick journey across the newspapers this morning, share with you the biggest stories making headlines across Nigeria. We're going to be starting on the Vanguard newspapers this morning. And, of course, the big story there says, Forex scarcity sends Naira tumbling to 930 Naira to the dollar. And it says there, BDCs lament dollar scarcity. Analysts disagree on involvement of BDCs. Parallel market premium widens as cost pressure may continue despite the reforms, says experts. BDCs, any BDC watching this money, I have $100 at home. No. Academic records. We graduated in Chicago University in 1979. Tinubu's classmate speaks out. Yeah, that's a really funny story. But of course, on that one, just to quickly let everyone, our viewers know, there is still a court case in the United States by the PDP's candidate, Atiku Abubakar, of course, who was subpoenaed and is asking the Chicago State University to provide details of their graduating class of 1979, I believe, where the Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his certificate says that he graduated from. That case is still ongoing in the United States. I think yesterday or the day before, they were in court, and there were some very interesting, revelations there. So yeah, I'm not sure who this is, but it says that he graduated with the president in 1979. Ransom from kidnapping, fueling terrorism and banditry, says National Counterterrorism Center. $600 million trapped funds. Tinubu directs CBN to meet foreign airlines, and also Abidjan-Lagos Highway. ECOWAS moves to perfect design for project. Insecurity. Niger to reopen 11 public schools closed in 2021. And what else can we find here? Nigeria accounts for 30% global malaria burden, says the minister. And IGP declares killer of DPO, Bako in Rivers wanted. 100 days, economic reforms have made life more difficult, say financial experts. Yes, and of course, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will say the same thing, not just economic experts. The Nigerians who are bearing the brunt of the current reforms in Nigeria's economy and the decisions made by the current administration will tell you exactly the same thing. And what else can we also quickly share here? I think these are the big stories on the Vanguard this morning. But the ransom from kidnapping, fueling terrorism, and banditry, that's, an interesting one there, because Nigeria continues to, of course, battle insecurity and the likes, battle banditry, battle terrorist organizations and everything. Nigerians, of course, have continued to demand some clarity as to what exactly continues to fuel these things. Is it kidnapping, ransoms? Are they still making enough money from kidnapping to fund, their organizations, to buy ammunition and continue to, to keep it going? Is there some money being made from, of course, allegations have, emerged in the last couple of months, money being made from mining Nigeria's mineral resources, mining, of course, in Zamfara and the likes, the rivers in northern Nigeria also, and the fish farmers. They also still paying levies to these terror groups. The question really is how they are making their money. Well, these are the big stories on the Vanguard newspapers this morning, and we will move away from the Vanguard to the Daily Independent, see what we can find.
All right, on the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper, federal government asks CBN to meet airlines quarterly to resolve FX crisis. Whose investments into aviation sector with tax holidays. IATA laments Lagos, Abuja airports most expensive in Africa. Students kick as OAU jerks up fees by 300%. We're just talking about this morning. Schools that would potentially increase or are already having conversations about increasing. So first it was Unilag and now OAU by 300%. Sanwo-Olu swears in 37 cabinet members and reads the Riot Act. Reps refute claim of 100 million naira palliative to members. Says NLC lied. Court orders DSS and police protection for Kogi ADC gubernatorial candidate. Tinubu condoles Libya as flood death toll passes 5,100 in one city. We also would keep mentioning how our thoughts, our hearts and our prayers are with the people of Libya. It's a very tough time to be a Libyan, to live in Libya at the moment. It's really a very tough time for them there. 42 firms emerge successful bidders for Nigerian flare site development. Federal government to expedite action on passage of water resources management bill. Two more stories. Proceeds of kidnapping being used to finance terrorism, and this is of course according to ONSA, that's Office of the National Security Advisor. And the final story on the Daily Independent, Nigeria's higher education landscape needs total overhaul. And this is according to the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman. And this is a position that all of us agree with. It does need a total overhaul. We can't have what we have right now. I mean, you were talking about how education outside the country is a lot more expensive and education in Nigeria is a lot more subsidized. It is subsidized. First of all, if you are increasing if you increase the qualities, when you can then talk about increasing, that's not to say, of course, that the quality across board is really poor. But we cannot deny the fact that the quality can be better. Yep. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. If you judge from even our time in school, although yes, it's been a long time we've been out of school, but some of the challenges that we experienced whilst in school are the challenges that some of them are still experiencing many years later, and it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree.
The salaries of professors, have we even spoken about salaries of professors? And now they are one of the, in terms of the effort they've put into getting where they've gotten to, they don't deserve the salaries that they're receiving. Professors, lecturers, they don't deserve what they're receiving.
It almost feels like slavery to some extent, and I always, would argue that, professor basically has gotten to the peak of his career most times in the university sector, in the education sector, except you eventually go to get on to, be permanent secretary or become vice chancellor or something like that. But it's the peak of your career. And would we compare it to what judges, receive, who are, of course, reasonably at the peak of their careers also? It may not be a, perfect comparison, but, I'm sure you get the point that I'm trying to make. The university sector, the education sector generally across Nigeria needs a lot of work. Same thing with the health sector. Needs a lot of work, needs, a lot more investment, needs a lot more interest, by the government. Can we improve on the amount of, on the percentage that we dedicate to do these two sectors every year from our national budget? Can Nigeria even afford it? Because every time that we argue that we need to fund education better or fund infrastructure or fund healthcare, I always will say, can Nigeria afford it? And in my opinion, yes, we can. We just waste too much money on very, very frivolous things. And at the same time, there's so many leakages in government, federal, state, and local government level that need to be blocked for the country to save money and redirect those funds into these sectors. Can we also, invest, in other aspects of of money generation, in infrastructure, in electricity, in tourism, and every other way that Nigeria as a country can make money. Yes, we can, but we're just not doing enough of that. And until we do that, it will continue to be a struggle to allocate money or more money to these aspects. I also want to just quickly mention, the part where the federal government asked CBN to meet airlines quarterly to resolve foreign exchange crisis. And of course, there's some other story that spoke of the president directing these things. And I said it 2 days ago that we need to institutionalize some of these things. We don't need to wait for the federal government's directive or for the president's directive before these institutions move and do what they're supposed to do. But let's move away from the Daily Independent. Let's go to the Guardian newspapers this morning, see what we can find over there. It says there, high prices push government homes beyond average Nigerians' reach. And I saw that story. I'm going to quickly share what it says. It says that despite the overwhelming gap in housing provision in the country, the federal government's 2,870 houses in different states are beyond the reach of low-income earners. It says the houses were constructed by President Muhammadu Buhari's administration through the former minister, Babatunde Fashola, under the National Housing Program. The government commenced 6,068 homes in 46 sites in 35 states, while 2,870 were completed. And of course, others are at different stages of completion. But it says here that among the projects, 83 units of 2- and 3-bedroom bungalows in Makurdi, of which 712 million was expended out of the 768 million set for the project. I'm trying to find where, how much it is per apartment in this story. It doesn't seem to show that. But yes, unfortunately, it's not, the report or the story doesn't really show. Okay, yes, it says, for instance, 1-bedroom house costs between 7.2 million and 9.2 million. 2-bedroom bungalows sell for 9.1 million and 12.3 million. Currently, the mortgage system remains a treacherous path for prospective homeowners, and there are concerns by contributors to the National Housing Fund on the impact of the scheme. Anyway, it's just a further breakdown of how Nigerians cannot afford these things. So yes, just looking at the story now, it breaks down how much the houses are. 3-bedroom, of course, it ranges between 13 and 16 million. Minimum wage is 30,000 naira, so obviously that's not a person who can afford any of these houses. Number of poor people in Nigeria, 95.1 million, and only 10% of Nigerians that desire to own homes could afford it, says the CBN. All right. Less than 1% of unemployed youths benefit from government interventions. That's also on The Guardian. And also, SCIID Panti, how not to investigate, deter criminals. Not sure what that is about. 6 years after, Nigeria awards 49 gas flare sites to 42 investors. And also, federal government moves NIMC to Ministry of Interior as issued NINs hit 102.4 million. These are the big stories on the Guardian newspapers this morning, and very interesting stories, I must say. Let's move away from the Guardian this morning and see what we can find on the Punch newspapers.
All right, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, the big story is talking about a conversation we had in the first hour of the show. ASU parents protest as more varsities hike fees. Prevail on universities to reverse fee increase. PTA tells Tinubu fears mass dropout. Lecturers slam federal government over poor funding. Students will take to cybercrime, parents warn. Libya floods kills 6,000 victims buried in mass graves. That's really sad. Land grabbers, violent return to Lagos, leaves trail of blood and deaths. Oh, wow. So land grabbers, I think that would be what is popularly referred to as omonile.
Yeah.
And, I
Is
don't
it?
know.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, omonile. So typically if you buy, I don't know if that's still obtainable, but before now, if you bought a piece of land in Lagos State, you can't just come and start building, not just in Lagos State, different parts of the country. You can't just buy the land and start building. Even if you get all your, you've gotten your C of O, everything is intact, you have to settle them.
Yeah.
They will call it DEVE, paying development levy.
It's not just in Lagos yet, like you said, it's everywhere.
So you have to pay for that. So
yeah.
Apparently they've returned to Lagos. I don't know where they went to before, but that doesn't look good. And they're leaving a trail of blood and death. The things people will do for land is just amazing.
Yeah.
Just in case you do not know. Section 1 of the Land Use Act provides that all lands belong to the governor. So this land that you're killing someone for is not really your own, neither is it theirs. It is the governor's. The government can collect this land, right? It is primarily theirs. But that's another conversation for another day. One feared killed as flood wreaks havoc in Lagos Estate. That's not good. The flooding in the past few days has been wild. Anyway, Naira weakens to 950 naira to the dollar. Forex scarcity worsens. Manufacturers slash output, jobs over forex crisis. Slain soldiers, over 6,000 family members to get insurance claims. And the federal government predicts heavy rainfall and flooding in 48 towns. This is not the first time that we've heard about the prediction of the flooding. This was I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, talking about the flood predictions. And we're asking what is being done. Are we going to have another humanitarian crisis on our hands? The floods have not been looking good. But that's all that we could take this morning on the front pages of the newspapers.
I would quickly cheapen the story on, slain soldiers, over 6,000 family members to get insurance claims. I, would maybe also need to look deeper into what the process is like. 6,000 slain soldiers, and once again, the need to institutionalize these things, ensure that MDAs are working properly, ensure that you don't need to go cap in hand or you go and beg for things like your pension or your gratuities or your insurance claims, after, retirement or, after the death of a soldier.
Yeah.
Ensure that, these things work, through a system that doesn't require anybody to be bribed. Nigerian soldiers have been lost in their thousands, since the, different levels of the fight against insecurity started many years ago. From Boko Haram to ISWAP to bandits, to, different names that we may not even be sure of. Do these family members who, of course, have lost their sons and their husbands deserve better? 100%. Do they deserve to wait for weeks, years, maybe, before they get the insurance that they are entitled to after the death of a soldier? They do not deserve that. And so I believe that these are some of the things that might also even encourage and motivate and boost the morale of Nigerian soldiers. And that includes also the Nigerian policemen who, of course, die in the line of duty. It should not wait this long, and it shouldn't take this long before these things happen for the average Nigerian soldier. We do not need, anybody to give orders or to set things in motion. It should be a system that just works.
They certainly deserve more than they're getting, is what we're saying.
Absolutely.
If you look at the military in other parts of the world, there's a certain reverence that comes with being a part of the military, of being a soldier. It's almost like, oh, you're serving, you're doing this great service, such that in the event that you lose your life, you know that for a certain your family is taken care of. Yes, your family is taken care of, and you're not bothering about, my children are going to be able to school, are they going to be able to feed? There's handsome remuneration, although yes, nothing can measure for a life being lost, but I don't think that that's what's obtainable here. I was speaking with some policeman who was, ranting. I ran into him on the road and we got into a conversation and was ranting during the election season how they were very underpaid, how there was a large sum that was disbursed for election security and it didn't get to them. Those kind of stories are really heartbreaking to hear. So like you mentioned, all the armed forces, they deserve
a lot
better than they're having. But that's all that we can take for now. We're going to break. When we come back, there's more to come. We're looking at our top stories in the second hour.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa first.
It's not just news to us, it's our voice and our story. It's our report, how we tell African stories for Africans. With detailed, timely and authentic reports, News Central is your home for true news and African stories. I am Omolola Ololade. This is News Central.
once again to Breakfast Central. Now, it was 3 days to the end of former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. The then Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, hurriedly launched what has become the worst, arguably, in the country's history, the Nigeria Air. Of course, on the project 5 years after its unveiling at the Farnborough Air Show in the United Kingdom. The show of pomp and shame, as it was described by many people, with meager guests forcefully smiling to the cover-up of what was, mostly described as a sham.
To date, charges have not been brought on the former Minister of Aviation, even if after Mr. Dayo Olumide, the acting managing director of Nigeria Air, disclosed that the airplane that landed at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, on the 26th of May 2023 was a chartered one from Ethiopia Air. A confirmation was earlier made by investigative journalist David Hundeyin that the current Minister of Aviation and Aerospace, Festus Keyamo, a few weeks ago reviewed the controversy surrounding the shady launch and further announced the suspension of the Nigeria Air project. He mentioned that it was necessary to investigate the Nigeria Air concession debacle adequately. We have also seen protests spring up at the airports by Nigerian aviation employees due to poor remuneration and working conditions. Then the sudden declaration of the lifting of UAE ban on Nigerians. There truly is a lot to cover in Nigeria's airspace. And joining us this morning is a member, Aviation Safety Roundtable, Olumide Owayo. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right, Olumide, looking at the aviation sector, so many areas have been highlighted. I'd like us to go to the beginning of the conversation this morning, which is, of course, the quote-unquote fake launch of Nigeria Air and what exactly the current situation is. Mr. Hadi Sirika, we expected that there are questions that he had to answer. Where is he now? Why hasn't he answered these questions? Will he ever answer these questions? These are some of the things that we've been thinking about, and we hope that you'll be able to shed some light on that.
Well, I just hope he would not want to answer the question. But presently under this government, the EFCC is comatose, and it's only the DSS that's operating right now. So probably we would have to wait when they wake the EFCC or when they finish merging the EFCC and ICPC to see some of the things that happened in the aviation industry in the last 8 years. Yeah, and then Nigeria is just one of them. It's not the only thing. It's just one of them. I think there's a need to look at what has happened, including other issues that has gotten us litigation, the concession, the staff auditing of the agencies, and other parameters. So wait for that. On the location of the immediate past minister, I really do not know. I have no personal beef with him, so I don't think I want to monitor what is happening in his life. He has come and he has gone. We have a person now. I just hope he'll be able to correct it. And then looking at the decision of the present minister, he has said he is suspending the Nigerian Air and the airport concessions, the two airport concessions of the two terminals in Abuja and Kano, till after he has gone through it and briefed Mr. President. I also want to suspend my joy until when we see the outcome, and because I know the personalities involved in the Nigerian Air and the concessionaires, the assumed concessionaires are not sitting down. They're doing so much pressure, and they're visiting the minister, going behind the lobby to get these things continue. And if you look at the minister, anytime he sits in his office, you see the Nigerian Air flag banner right behind him. So I wonder, when you say you suspend and the banner is always at your press brief for any meeting you have with anybody visiting the Ministry of Aviation. Anyway, we cannot pick it. My problem is, why would you continue to support one airline when you have other airlines with investors who are Nigerians, who are sweating it out, who has made Nigerians to travel from one part of the country to another all the while, and then suddenly an unborn baby is now the most precious child, and that's what you think would revive and then make the industry better. I don't make that kind of thought.
Oh well, we of course to a large extent, a lot of times Nigeria works based on presidential orders. The EFCC may not, take any steps until somebody has asked them to take those steps. That's the way it has always seemed. So if you're expecting that the former minister would be questioned, That may not happen. But at the same time, it's not saying that he has outrightly questions that must be answered. Nigerians are only just clamoring or asking for some clarity as to the funds that were dispersed with the whole Nigeria Air project and what it was able to achieve with it. But I want to talk about the new minister now. Air safety has been a big concern, a huge concern in the last few years. Some would argue that we have had a really, really good run and high ratings with air safety. We've not had any air crashes in about a decade. If you remove the Nigerian Air Force incidents. What would you say that Festus Keyamo, the new minister, must put in place in the aviation sector if we're going to be able to maintain that record?
Well, let me first say we don't count the Air Force as part of civil aviation. They are the ones that operate, regulate themselves, and investigate themselves. So it's not under the purview of civil aviation. So whatever issue happens with them, it remains with them, and they should be able to come here and defend their own actions and failures and successes in the air transportation and the incidents and that we've seen. The civil aviation is regulated by the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, and that's about the power they have and that they've done successfully. They've maintained the Category 1 certification, and also just recently passed the ICAO audit. Though there are still some gaps that they need to correct within the time frame, and I think that will be corrected. But the most important thing is that it wasn't a failure per se, though the result wasn't better than what we had before, but we could do better. And safety hasn't really been a problem. It was a problem in the past, but since the regulator became very firm, safety has improved. What I think the only area we need firmness from the regulator right now is the service providers, who are also government-owned, and they were the ones that brought down the marks that we got from this audit. I'm talking about the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria and the Nigerian Airspace Management Agencies. The one provides air navigation, and the one other provides airport services. And this organizations did not do too well in that audit, and that brought down the marks of Nigeria. Though we did not fail. But we pass on trial. Is that what they use for those days in secondary school? Maybe that's what I want to call that. But by and large, it shows that there is so much concentration on the privately owned organizations, the airlines, and the other service providers who are owned privately, while leaving the major the air navigation side and the farm owned by government to be at par with the regulator. I think that must change. That must change. The NCA must be firm on every aspect of the industry, every service provider, irrespective of the ownership, and that would help us. But again, going back to your question, I think we are at the conference now in Abuja, and the minister was there yesterday. He rolled out his roadmap. I think he's continuing most of the things that he met on ground, and then he said he was going to tweak it. And then if he's going to tweak it, then we should be rest assured then that the safety issues that we handled and been able to hold successfully over the years would also continue. Because as part of the roadmap was to provide equipment for the agencies and also ensure they sustain the Category 1 certification and pass the ICAO audit. So he has promised to continue on that line, and I just think we should just watch as it goes. But I would advise that you cannot have safety in isolation. Safety goes with also the success of the other industry players and the entire value chain. And in having this success, this value chain will also show some level of profitability, increase in revenue for the agencies and also and services. So we just can't be building on safety and not be able to develop the industry commercial, and I think that is what it needs to concentrate on right now. And if there are any emergency equipment that they need to provide for the agencies, then they make it as quickly as possible. I think the most important thing right now is to see how we can get our airport certified. None of our airports is certified, and we also need to increase the fire cover at our international airports. it's sad to see that flights were cancelled to Port Harcourt due to the fire cover class that was in that airport, and you see that it could take the domestic airlines, you won't feel it, but the domestic airlines are still flying, but the international airline I had to stop. The main Lufthansa here, but the fire cover was not enough for the size of the equipment they were using in that aircraft. So I think that needs to be addressed. We don't allow news to go around the world that an airline could not land an airport because of the level of the fire cover at the airport. That's a disgrace, and I think that needs to be addressed.
All right. You've spoken about a number of the things that the Minister of Aviation needs to do and some of the areas to be focused on if we are to ensure that things look up. Do you have faith in his ability to be able to do these things that you've mentioned? Do you have faith that Festus Keyamo would be able to turn around the aviation sector?
Remember, first and foremost, that the politicians cannot are unpredictable, and you must avoid praising and having so much hope so you don't get you'll be counted as those seeking favors. I don't think I like some of the initial steps, the baby steps taken so far. I looked at him, he's a lawyer, and I expect that the first thing he would have done being a lawyer was to first call the aviation lawyers in the industry, bring them together, and then look at the knotty issues, because we are immersed in some legal webs caused by agreements that we did not follow through, and agreements we did not obey. We didn't ensure that our own part was sustained in that agreement, and then there's some that are not even favorable to agencies and even the country at large. So I thought that he would have sat down with the aviation lawyers first, come to meet his own constituents and say, look, I'm a lawyer, I'm coming in now. I do not know much about aviation, and need to get to guide me what are some of the issues I'm meeting on ground and how we can work on this. That I have not seen. The order he gave for the airlines to leave the old Lagos terminal to the new one, then they should do that within a month. We are all witnesses to the chaos that has caused to passengers and the airlines themselves. I thought that was hasty. That should have been done in phases, moving 1 or 2 or 3 airlines in the month, maybe 1 or 2 airlines in the month, because you just don't need, you're not moving aircraft. You're moving systems, processes, personnel, and this will have things that concession to other organizations that they need also they need also talk to those concessionaires on how make a program how they're going to move to the new terminal. But given that order that everybody should leave within 30 minutes before October 1st, and that was almost implemented by the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, that has caused some chaos. I think that's an area, and that's one of the things I didn't like in the order so far from him. And again, the task force he has set up to look at how this is were corrected and made up of essays he brought from the Ministry of Labor. You don't do that. These are technical and operational issues. You need people that are on ground. You need professionals in that task force with a mandate to see how this can be resolved. And luckily, I think right now they have called the airlines for a meeting for a meeting, and that was done on Monday. At Saturday, I can't tell you what the outcome was, but that would have been the first thing that have been done rather than give that order. But well, I think let us
so, baby steps. You just mentioned, him bringing people from a ministry that doesn't necessarily fit into the job that they are required to do. Do you think that maybe will define the rest of the decisions that he might be making?
Well, politicians. What I mean here is that there's chaos with the order he gave with respect of moving the airlines and the organization from the old terminal to the new terminal in Lagos, which has caused so much pain, and the videos all going viral.
Yeah.
And you need to do a task force to correct it. And I'm setting up a task force. I saw about 3 or 4 SAs who are not even industry players. You had one retired engineer from the Ministry of Aviation, one person from the regulator, and the other 3 were essays from that he brought from the Ministry of Labour, who are not knowledgeable on the airport operations movement. So I was expecting, you are at least taking one or two operational staff of that
absolutely.
And call a representative of the airlines involved to be part of that task force and say how it can be resolved. You know, that would have been faster than getting people who are not grounded in the industry and to now start the process. And what they will do, they will now start consulting those in the industry and call them. And those might probably not respond fully, like if you won't give me that responsibility.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, hopefully, it's not the same thing that goes into proper airline safety and air travel safety details, in our aviation sector, because I remember that there was a time when there were complaints about water and, aviation fuel being mixed together. There were some fears a couple of weeks ago, maybe, about a couple of months ago. These are things that, would put fear in every Nigerian to be sure that they, they're not putting their lives at risk every time they board a plane. But I want your thoughts also on the UAE controversy. Ajuri Ngelale and, of course, the president did announce, 2 days ago that there has been discussions with the government of the UAE and there will be an immediate lifting of or suspension of the ban on Nigerians traveling to Dubai. Quickly share your thoughts on that one. It didn't sit well with a couple of people.
Well, also just like the order asking the airlines to move before the end of the month, the presidential spokesperson then put the cart before the horse. Because if you look at the press release from the UAE government, he had no mention of removal of the ban on visa. Even the airlines, the Emirates itself, in a release said they've not seen that order, and though they are aware that discussions are on, and until when those discussions are over, they are not going to start the airline, but it starts the flight to Nigeria. So I think the spokesperson did not tell us what actually transpired. And if you notice, after that press release, there was another press release about 2 days later saying Nigeria and the UAE government are engaging in discussion on how to vacate the ban order. So why did you tell us it was vacated when to this after you attended their discussion? So I don't think I want to waste time on that. There was an error there from the spokesperson, and come out openly to accept the outright corrective measures they put in place. But let's leave that. Let's look at the beauty of that trip, the benefits. I think that's more important than what happened, than the mistake from the spokesperson. Yeah, it's good to see that the president had to detour to the UAE to see the government and see how this visa ban can be reversed and how the airlines operate. It's very good to see if that can happen as quickly as possible. We need the capacity of Emirates and Etihad on the international route. Because these two airlines don't take passengers to Abu Dhabi, but that meeting I did not see any of the airlines there. Then did I see the regulator, the National Aviation Authority. I think they should have had representatives at that meeting to discuss the commercial part of it. Because in the past, the Emirates was flying 2 times a day to Lagos, once to Abuja, once daily to Abuja, while Etihad comes about 4 or 5 times a week, 4 or 5 times a week to Nigeria, and the only Nigerian carrier that was on that route was Air Peace. It was a flag on that route, and they were, instead of giving them Dubai that they requested for, they sent them to Sharjah. I think that should not happen this time around. They must put everything on the table. If you want 21 slots into Lagos and Abuja, then you give us 21. So you give Air Peace or any other airline representing Nigeria 21 slots into Dubai. That should be that, and that's what the word reciprocity is. It's not for them to dictate which airport or which city will be available to them. That is not right. If we are giving you a choice airports to land, and you are picking the appropriate time, then you must ensure that you find the opening for that airport and time for our own aircraft to land in your own country.
All right, let's talk about the issue with airlines being able to take their FX out of the country. That was an issue that we had in the past, we've had for a while, where a number of them would complain about not being able to take out their money. This morning on the front page of the Daily Independent, the big story there says, federal government asks CBN to meet airlines quarterly to resolve FX crisis. Wu's investments into aviation sector with tax holidays. IATA laments Lagos Abuja airports most expensive in Africa. So I'd like you to talk to us about, the airlines being able to take away their FX. Are we going to still have problems? We're still struggling with our currency here. So is that still going to be a concern to look out for?
Oh yes. Obviously, it's going to be a concern. Emirates pulled out of Nigeria. Their reason was that their funds that are trapped in Nigeria, and I think the canal that broke the back was while they were operating in Nigeria, despite not having their funds, despite being unable to get their funds out of Nigeria back to their country. They were buying fuel in Nigeria and wanted to pay in Naira, and the oil marketers refused to accept Naira, and that was what the final straw. And I said, well, they cannot have their money trapped in Nigeria, and they will have to bring money again to begin to fuel the aircraft. And I just wondered how they signed that deal to be paying in dollars in Nigeria when some other airlines are paying in Naira. Well, that was what happened, and Emirates had to pull out. But I need to tell you that we, under the international trade, we must ensure that the airlines operating to Nigeria, after paying requisite taxes and charges, remit the remaining of the revenue to their country. It's in the bilateral air services agreement with any country. It is their right to remit funds after all taxes and charges have been paid. So we must make that with, and I'm happy the president has also given that order. I'm sure this was part of the discussions, benefits of discussion with the United Arab Emirates government, and given that order now that Central Bank should see what should open a day of discussion before the end of the quarter and how to work on modalities of ensuring that these foreign airlines get this trapped fund. These trapped funds have made fares high because most of them have locked up the lower inventories and not opening it. And that's why you see some Nigerians are traveling as far away as Ghana, Togo, Benin Republic to go and board flights outside Nigeria just to go to get Europe at a cheaper fare. So I think it's helpful that it's a responsibility that we need to do. And it's also sad that we are the highest debtor. Among all the countries in Africa that are owing foreign airlines, Nigeria is the highest.
Yeah.
And then not only the highest in Africa, but the highest in the world.
Yeah, really. That is really heartbreaking. But of course, I think most importantly, is more support for the local airlines, which you pushed for before, earlier rather, and of course, assuring Nigerians that they are safe every time they board a plane. These developments and these, bits and pieces need to be put together to improve on the aviation sector generally. Mr. Olumide Uwayo, thank you so much. We enjoyed speaking with you. We look forward to another conversation with you in the near future. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me. Good morning once again.
All right. Nigeria's opposition, African Democratic Congress, has accused some state governors of stifling the civic space and intimidating opposition political parties in their states from freely carrying out political campaigns. The party, in a press conference in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, singled out governors of Kogi and Imo states, saying they have continued to use state powers to frustrate other candidates. Marvelous Obomanu was at the press conference and brings us these details.
Nigeria's electoral umpire has announced that off-season elections in the country will be taking place in Kogi, Edo, Imo, and Bayelsa states on November the 11th. The polls, which are expected to elect governors and chief executives to the helm of affairs of the states, are expected to be an improvement of the recently conducted general elections. However, some political parties have expressed skepticism about the credibility of the upcoming elections.
We believe that with the criticism of INEC globally, that they will use these three off-season elections to be able to make amends, to correct whatever ills or wrongs they've done, during the 2023 general elections.
Recently, the African Democratic Congress has accused state governors of states where elections are expected to be conducted of using their executive powers to prevent opposition candidates from freely campaigning for the upcoming polls.
They are trying to be above the law because there's constitution, there's a process, and they undermine the process. So part of the rigging process is what they are doing at the state level, where a governor will make it that before you mount your poster or your billboard, you pay 50 million. Where is it on?
Our candidate, Leka Bejide, was recently harassed. People was being chased all over on trumped-up charges because they wanted to stop him from further campaigning.
The national chairman of the party called on relevant authorities to investigate events ongoing in the mentioned states.
I'm especially calling on the National Security Advisor, the IG of Police, and the DGSSS, and INEC to look into the carnage happening in Kogi and Imo states.
The party says that the action of the governors may cause voter apathy and may prevent residents of the state from coming out to vote during the polls.
The voter apathy is not ruled out, but I am calling on the youths, I am calling on the women, I am calling on everybody, all eligible voters, to come out and vote again. You understand?
While the ADC has called for a review of the conduct of the governors alleged to be complicit, it is hoped that thorough investigations will be carried out to ensure the upcoming polls are devoid of issues. Marvelous Obomanu, reporting for News Central.
Well, very interesting report there, and very important report also, and just to bear in mind that these both APC states, Imo State and Kogi State, and it's not just the ADC that I believe has these concerns or these issues with the state government. And these are some of the things that have been able to mostly defined state government elections and state government politics across Nigeria for a long time. Levels of interference, bullying, and of course just stifling the opposition space in those states. There are states in Nigeria where the main opposition party is funded by
but that's politics. Right? At
Very
the end
true,
of the day, it's like a game of chess.
Yeah.
You put your people at different points. You know the way that one of the strategies of being able to overcome opposition is making sure that the lead opposition, the most stubborn person, haven't you seen that in class? The teacher will make the most stubborn person class captain.
As an ally.
Yeah, so you're an ally. So it's wisdom. It's
I get it. I just wanted to mention it. So anytime that there are certain times that you see an opposition party always failing, never been able to do anything reasonable. They always seem to be gingered, but it never amounts to anything. It is a lot of times because
in a Yoruba adage, Yoruba proverb that says "Kokoro ton jefo, jefo lowa." I hope I pronounced that correctly. It means the insect that is eating the leaf lives inside
the leaf.
Yeah.
That's a very good proverb. Yeah. It's pretty much the same. There's some other one, that they say in Igbo. I don't know how to say it in Igbo, but about never mind.
We've come to the end of today's show. Thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. We hope you've enjoyed the stories we've brought. We hope to be able to bring more exciting stories tomorrow. I was already saying next week because I'm already really in weekend mood. To UNILAG students, we hope that there's some form of considerable midpoint this day. They're going to be having the meeting today with the VC and the I think it's the VC they said they're meeting with, right?
Yes, the National Association of Nigerian Students and the VC, the management of
UNILAG. Yeah. We hope that they can find some middle point and that this strike can come to an end and that the numbers can be reversed. So that's all that we can take this morning.
Yeah. But let's quickly share with you what comes up later today on News Central TV.
At 9 a.m. West African time, we have News Central Now.
9 p.m. West African time, NC Continental Prime.
And at 10 p.m. West African time, it is Nigeria Tonight. Join us.
This is where we say goodbye. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back here again tomorrow morning. I am Osaogie Ogbawa.
I am Olive Emodi. See you tomorrow.